three, third, throw, through. And hopefully that'll help you guys build up your confidence and your ability to sound like a native speaker. And with me, I have this that I drew a while ago. It's an anatomical diagram. Thanks, Fatima. So we're going to talk, this is the mouth and the nose. And this is how we're going to learn how to make some pronunciation improvements. Yeah, it was pretty fun, huh? Hello, Ramil. First off, what you need to know, yeah, I did draw that. First off, what you need to know is that pronunciation is probably going to be one of the hardest things you try to do as an English learner, as a non-native English speaker. And the truth is that you have to be okay with the fact that you're probably never going to have perfect pronunciation. Your accent is probably going to exist no matter how much English you learn, and that's okay. Because as long as you can still clearly communicate the words and phrases and sentences that you want to, you'll be just fine. So my job is to help you guys get a good enough pronunciation that you can be understood very easily by any native speaker. It doesn't mean that you're going to be perfect. You're still going to have the accent that comes with your language, and that's okay. When I speak Japanese, I still have an American accent for the most part, but I try really hard to learn and replicate the Japanese sounds that are difficult for me to make. Where am I from? I am from Utah in the United States, but I moved around a lot. So I don't really have a place that I'm from. I learned my pronunciation naturally, of course, because I'm a native speaker, but I learned it from a lot of different places, I think. So sometimes I pronounce words a little bit different than people in other parts of the United States. Yeah, Utah is pretty cool. Hey, Jonathan. And that's another thing you have to remember is that pronunciation changes depending on where you are, even with native speakers. There are different dialects and accents of English. So one difficulty you might have if you come to America is if you go to somewhere with a strong dialect where people have very strong different accents, it might be very hard for you to understand what they're saying. So I also hope that by doing this kind of lesson, I can help you understand different accents better. Does that make sense? But yeah, that's exactly it. So I'm just going to kind of go over some sounds that I know are difficult for non-native speakers to learn. It also depends on what language is your native language. For some of you, you can say some of these sounds perfectly because they're in your native language. But some of the sounds are not in your native language. That's why it's difficult. Or maybe your language has sounds that we don't. So everybody's language is going to be different, which is why all of you are going to have different levels of difficulty depending on which sound I'm going over. My recommendation is that you repeat after me. My accent is standard American, I would say. I think my accent is very normal in America. It's not very strong. It's standard, which means most people have it wherever you go. So my recommendation, though, is that you guys repeat after me and practice with me as much as you can. The best way for you guys to learn how to change and improve your pronunciation is to practice it over and over again. And then your voice, your vocal cords and your mouth are going to get used to making those sounds. Because you have to know how to move your mouth and how to use your voice. Okay. First, we need to talk about voiced sounds versus unvoiced sounds. So with voiced sounds, if you put your fingers right here, you'll be able to feel them. You'll be able to feel your throat vibrate with a voiced sound. But if it's unvoiced, it's not going to move. So a lot of sounds in English are made in the same place of the mouth, but the difference is whether they're voiced or unvoiced. So, for example, F and V. F and V. The truth is, F and V, you use the same mouth shape to make them. So F, it's called a labiodental, I think. It's where your teeth go to your bottom lip. That's fair, family, fun, friend. The F sound right here. But that's unvoiced. If you want to make the V sound, you do the exact same thing, except this time you turn on your vocal cords. So for V sound, you say V, voice, very vocal, voracious, those kinds of words. So you guys get what I'm talking about with voice and unvoiced sounds? The only difference, because with F and V, all you do is you take your top teeth and put them to your bottom lip. How can you make our mother language has no effect on English? Really, you can't make it. I don't think you can make it perfectly that your mother language and accent doesn't affect your English accent. Some people do after a lot of time in America, but I think you have to live in America for that to work, and you have to speak English every single day and maybe not speak your language as much. But that's okay if that's not your goal, if that's not what happens. It's okay if your accent never gets perfect. What's important is that people can understand you. Hey, Snow, thanks. Does that make sense? I hope that everything is kind of clear, okay? Does everybody get the difference between, good to see you too, does everybody get the difference between F and V? The F and the V sound. Hey, G. The F and the V are made using the same mouth shape. The difference is using your throat. For F, fair, for, friend, you feel no vibration right here. But V, very, voice, vector, stuff like that. Yeah, it is for free, Jasmine. That's kind of an easy one, so that you guys kind of get the idea of how I'm going to teach you the different pronunciations. Okay? Yep, F is voiceless. And then later, I'll have hop-ons, and you guys can practice your pronunciation, and I can tell you how to improve. You guys can practice some of these sounds. So as I do these, though, you should practice by yourself, so that you make sure that you train your voice and your mouth to make. Okay, Triana, that's a perfect one. That was next. TH. That's a very common one that's difficult for people to pronounce. The or the. That's also, there's two different types. There's the voiceless and the voiced. So voiceless would be like three. And you make the TH sound by putting your tongue in between your teeth. Thrice. Thread. But if you put your voice in it, then you're going to get the, like the, there, that, though. And that's important that you know the difference. In some words, yeah, G, that's a difficult one. Three and tree. People kind of mix that up a lot because the R is also a different sound, a difficult sound to make. But just remember, using our diagram, that when you make three or the TH sound, you put your tongue, you're going to bring it in between your teeth right here. Threat, three, throw, through, though, that's voiced, though, there, that. Is that? Come on. Okay, career. Yeah. Okay, so now that's actually kind of a common one. Sometimes if you say career, people think you're saying Korea. It's probably because you're not pronouncing the R exactly right. And R is a hard one. So we're going to go over the R later, because that's going to be the biggest one to focus on. Fatima, just to answer your question, you say rural, which is a very difficult one. It's even difficult for native speakers to say rural, but you just say rural. Even me, like I kind of mess it up. World, that's a hard one too. R and L are very difficult for most people because they're close. R and L are close sounds to make. Okay, how about the ED sound? Like when you do past tense verbs, a lot of times you put ED on the end, right? So like, I washed my car yesterday. You need to be careful not to say I washed. You don't say wash it, you say I washed. Painted. But with that one, you do kind of say ed. Painted. Washed. When you say washed, it sounds like a T at the end instead of an ED. Sometimes that happens, depending on what letters are close. Planed. Planed. You don't say planed. See, that's kind of tricky. How can we pronounce the helping verb were? Pronounce it like where or wore? Kind of neither of those. Were, where, wore. Played. Yeah, we say played, not played. We don't say played. It depends on what the last sound is in the word before you make it past tense. That's going to depend on whether or not you say ed or just d. Flabbergasted. Usually if it's a T, it'll be ted. So hunted. So when it's a T at the end, it's going to be usually an ud or an ed sound. Haunted. But with things like washed, braced, shared, you don't say. Stopped. Yeah, stopped. That's a good example. Influenced. That he influenced my life. Yeah, we use a T kind of sound at the end instead of a D. So that's another one. T and D. What you're going to do with T and D is you're going to take your tongue and you're going to put it right up at the top right here inside. So ta, duh. Duh is just the voice version of ta. And sometimes a word might be written with a D, but it sounds like a T. That just depends on the pronunciation of that word. It depends on the other sounds in that sentence. So T and D are very close relative sounds. When and van. That means you got to make sure you know how to do the wah, and the va. When and van. But does that make sense between the T and the D and then the ED? So like stopped. Even though it's written with ED at the end, you use kind of a T sound at the end. So it's not stopped, it's stopped. Stopped. It's not laughed, it's laughed. Laughed. It's not missed, it's missed. I missed the train this morning. I missed my friend at the party. Like that. Cooked. It's like a T at the end, not cooked. It's cooked. I cooked dinner yesterday. You pronounce that as Q. It's kind of nice. It's not that complicated. It's just Q. Q is more of a British word. Saeed, I'm 20 years old. Okay. These are the difficult ones. L and R. L and R. So a lot of languages don't have different sounds for L and R. I know that Japanese does not have L's. Japanese does have R, but it's a bit different of a sound. In Japanese, it's more like da, di, do, de, do. It's a little bit more like a cross between a D, da, and R. 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 R is a very difficult one, and so is L. And sometimes, if you're not native, you can't hear the difference very well between R and L. But they are very different, so it's important that you remember. So it's important that you say rice, rice, water, roar, I have not learned jiu-jitsu or ninja fighting. Detached. World. Yeah, if they're by each other, they're very difficult. World. Computer. There's light L and dark L. What is the difference between them? I don't know what that means. Can I pronounce this verb? Aim. Watch where you aim that thing. Water. Yeah, water. W-A-T-E-R. Blossom.